Hello.
Hi.
And welcome back to another episode of Coven, a podcast where we bring to light the lost stories of enigmatic people throughout history whose fascinating lives echo the complex archetype of the witch. This is season 2, episode 9. Final episode.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's been great.
Yeah. Flew by, honestly.
Yeah.
So quickly. It's crazy that we're already here.
Yeah.
And we are already planning a season 3, so stick around.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess my magic moment, we can get
Yeah.
into that. My magic moment this time is just how all of this happened so magically. The person that I'm choosing is a really great, I think, wrap-up person. And every single part of making this podcast and doing this project has been so synchronistic and so aligned. It has all happened so easily, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, we all feel that, but just the fact, I was just finding so much gratitude the other day of, it is obviously, we were just discussing how intense of a time it's been collectively in the world, and everybody's has so much on their plate and is so stressed out and has just so much going on. And the fact that this is still getting done, not only getting done, but getting done in such a beautiful, perfect way, is so incredible and such a beautiful gift. So that's my magic moment. Thanks, everybody.
I'm so glad. Yeah. It hasn't felt, I mean, it's been a lot of work, but it hasn't felt like a lot of work to me. I actually love it. I've told you many times, like, how much I appreciate being able to be creative with you and Sierra and Josh and Chris and just, yeah, thanks for letting me be a part of it too.
I'm so happy you're here. It all very aligned. I think it's
crazy.
super perfect that you're here. So getting
I'm
into
super
our
excited.
final episode, I'm gonna, for the final time of season 2, give Coco this birth chart of this person that I'm introducing into our coven today. Coco doesn't know who I'm bringing into our coven, so this is going to be a blind birth chart reading. And here we are.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. Wow. There is a lot going on.
Yeah, all over the place.
Okay. Is this the right
This is correct.
Oh, okay. So this is really who this person is. Oh my gosh. So there's just a lot going on. So many aspects. And okay, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. Capricorn rising, and so that means Saturn rules the chart, and Saturn is up in the 9th house of education, philosophy, religion, publishing, etc. And then let's see, Jupiter is there with the ascendant, and then in the 2nd house, Mercury and Venus in Aquarius. 3rd house, Sun, Mars, Black Moon, Lilith, Moon in the 4th house. There is so much going on. It's hard for me to like even know where to begin here.
That makes sense already. So.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I'll just start with, I don't even know where to start. Okay. I mean, Jupiter in the 1st house, larger than life. And then obviously steadfast at what they are doing. And I don't know, like Jupiter can mean so many things: expansion, philosophy, religion, but also good fortune and abundance, and also being spiritual too, right? And then like, so they, so something in abundance is about them, larger than life. And then the Mercury and Venus in Aquarius, I'm just looking at like there's a trine between Uranus, the South Node, and Venus, I think. I'm sorry. If you're looking at this, you understand on the screen, because it is just like so insane. And then like the Moon Neptune opposition. So someone who like is emotional, compassionately emotional, and also like a fiery personality. Their sun is pretty much conjunct Mars in Pisces, but then also like a spiritual aspect. Pisces for me are very hard to read. But which is totally Piscean too, because
Yeah. Neptune.
yeah. And then let's see. Uranus is also in Gemini, so like short bursts of information that are revolutionary, or and in doing so being of service to others. And then and then Pluto right here. Oh yeah, Pluto opposite is opposing Mercury, like exactly. I don't know how I missed that. Sorry. So transformative speech, transformative communication, transformative, and then also maybe like talking about taboo subjects or the occult. Transformative. Wait. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then also learning a lot about like spiritual stuff, maybe. And yeah, it's like there's a lot of like spirituality, it feels like, because of Pisces right here. And then just Neptune opposing the moon, that right there is like emotional and spiritual. And also Chiron in Sagittarius in the 12th house is making a square to Mars. Is it Mars or the sun in the first house? Or sorry, the third house, I mean. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's kind of both, but the sun is closer. But that's actually interesting. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
There's a really specific thing that happened that would probably apply to.
Yeah, and so that tells me like more transcendence and more spirituality, and and then their midheaven is in Scorpio in the 11th house. So more just like transformative energy there too. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's all I got.
Yeah, let's get into it. I think obviously it makes sense that it's a little confusing. Neptune in the 10th house is always, I think, going to be, that's what Anais had as well.
Oh.
And it's somebody who's kind of hard to pin down and understand and have clarity with. So even with your
Makes
like
sense.
intuition of the chart being like all over the place and confusing, it's like the Pisces energy and the Neptune.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's get into it.
Okay.
So for episode 9 of season 2, I'm welcoming writer, underground actress, eccentric free spirit, and the original inspiration for this Coven podcast, Cookie Mueller, into our Coven. Finally.
I know who that is.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was wondering if that's who it was going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. She has been
Finally.
I was trying to figure out when the right time would be, and also how to tell her story, because unlike all of the other people that we've covered, there isn't really like a single like thing to talk about with her. There is in with AIDS and with queer culture and counterculture, those kinds of things. But as a person and like kind of what she stood for is truly all over the place. Ultimately, she was just, well, I guess I'll just read what I wrote.
Yeah.
Her life was full of boldness, eccentricity, freedom, and she remains an embodiment of unfiltered expression, creative defiance, and loyalty. She's a muse for many and an underground queen in New York City's 1970s scene and a brilliant writer. Her legacy echoes through the queer underground art movement. Today we'll dive into the absurdity and beauty of her life, from the streets of Baltimore to the chaos of San Francisco, from working with John Waters to raising a son to eventually falling prey to the AIDS epidemic that took far too many. Mostly I just want to talk about the absurdity of her life and her commitment to art, freedom, expression, and authenticity. And I said there's a pattern here because most of the people that we've covered have this commitment to expression and authenticity, which I think pretty fully encompasses the archetype of the witch too, of like just expressing their truth in whatever form that takes.
Being true to themselves, being true to being also true to, I guess just to themselves.
And wherever their heart is, even if it goes against tradition, against society, which most often it does.
I was trying to figure out how to say like also being true to like the universe, but
that is your heart.
I guess you're right.
It.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
So
all right,
let's get into it. She's been so impactful in my life, and I guess I'll give a brief little overview. I don't know if I've fully told the story of her and how she brought this to life. I stumbled upon her book synchronistically in a used bookstore. This one right here. Walking through clear water in a pool painted black. It's her memoir, little short stories, little essays from her life. And I read the first 2 pages and just absolutely fell in love and was like, who is this person? How have I never heard of them? Highly recommend.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's the quickest, easiest read. She writes like for somebody with ADHD.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's the most shocking, hilarious, and like heartfelt stories. It's she writes in a really, really beautiful and just wild way. And she has had an insane life. And so I absolutely fell in love with her. I really liked her energy and just kind of how she moved through the world. And my friend Riley and I, who I originally started Coven with, I had Riley read this book too. And she also fell in love with her. And at the time we were working in film, and we were like, we should make a movie out of this. And so we were looking into that. Long story short, I ended up buying a last-minute plane ticket because a series of events aligned absolutely perfectly to be in New York the very next day when we were researching. So I bought a plane ticket that night, flew to New York. By the time I got there, we heard back that the rights to this had been sold already, so we couldn't do the film. But we went to the event that we intended to go to in New York. And from that, got the impression that not only do we want to tell Cookie's story because it's insane that nobody knows who she is, but we want to tell all of these stories, so many stories of these women who were at this event, who were just absolutely incredible. And nobody had heard of them. There was hardly anybody there. So, long story short, Coven came to be, and here we are now. So she's like our original inspiration.
I'm so glad you get to talk about her.
Me too. She's great. And whoever has the rights to this, I hope you make a good one. So, the New York Times considers her one of the most influential, if unheralded, figures in the late 20th century American culture. She was born March 2nd, 1949, in Baltimore, Maryland. named Dorothy Karen Mueller, but quickly adopted the nickname Cookie before she could walk by her older brother Michael. Before her 11th birthday, she wrote a 321-page book because she was determined to be the youngest author ever.
Wow.
And she typed it up and stapled it and cut up cardboard from beer cases and then covered that with white butcher paper and saran wrap. And when she had it all complete, she went to the library and put it on the shelf. I never saw it again.
Oh my gosh.
At 11.
Wow.
Around this time, her brother Michael, who gave her this nickname, died climbing a dead tree that fell on him. And so that's kind of why I was looking at the Chiron Sag in the 12th house. Square, her son, in the 3rd house. 3rd house can represent siblings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And 12th house, death and hangings, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But she writes that he was too sensitive for the world and that he saved himself a myriad of problems. She ended up dropping out of school at 18. She never really connected with her family or her parents much. Moved to San Francisco in 1967.
Oh, wow.
What a time to be here.
Yeah, for real.
The other thing about Cookie is that it is kind of hard. You really get her spirit in this. But when it comes to like vulnerability and really like seeing her emotions, hard pressed.
Really?
You'll see it in kind of towards the end. I'll read something. You definitely know like how she cares for people. You definitely know what her like values are. But I think the Neptune opposite moon makes a lot of sense because her like emotional vulnerability is a little bit foggy. You're not really getting like a core essence of like her being real about, like, she's not going to write about how sad she is.
Oh.
This is a very humorous book.
I see.
It's hilarious.
I see. So she was like one of those. They're like really brilliant. And they also are very aware of the travesties of all of the world. And so the only way that they can cope is by making like
humor
joke about
and
it.
being so blunt. So incredibly blunt and direct that it's shocking. You read this, but like she phrases it in a way that it's shocking, but you're like, it's not uncomfortable. Yeah. At least for me, it was like, whoa, but it didn't make me feel like put off by anything. So I think that's interesting. In San Francisco, she immersed herself in the drug-fueled art punk scene. Got by living with 11 roommates, sleeping wherever, and selling drugs. Wow. So yeah, she's living with 11 roommates, sleeping wherever, selling drugs. She's living on Page Street. There is an exact address in this book. I won't say it on the podcast because, I don't know, it feels invasive. But I did go by.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That was a really fun moment to
that's rad.
kind of imagine it. But she shared a courtyard with many, including Janis Joplin.
Wow.
Yeah, but just that whole area. So just like the epicenter of all of the craziness of San Francisco in that era. And yeah, so the way that I'm telling this story, because I feel like we've done a lot of people who are activists in one way or another who have like a really fierce passion toward a specific cause. Cookie is not that. Yeah. And so this is why I've been struggling to find a way to tell her story because her passion is just in living at the whims of whatever comes her way.
That sounds very Piscean and Neptunian. Yes. Yeah,
taking
whatever.
Yeah, taking life by the absolute reins, I guess, and just, or I guess letting life take her by the reins, I should say.
It's like a story that my mom always talks about. Instead of fighting against the current of the river and trying to grab onto the side, let go and just let yourself float down and see where
very much her energy. And it's something that since reading her, I've brought into my own life, not in the way that she has, because it's insane. Yeah. But it's just like reading these stories and seeing what she like survived and how her attitude in it all is just like, well, and then this happened and whatever.
I love that.
So there was a story I wanted to share from this. There's so many, but the one that I picked is the one from San Francisco in this era. She was just sharing a day in the life in San Francisco. So it starts out, she wakes up in the morning to a random dude in her bed who's sweating too much because he couldn't handle his drugs from the night before. And so she's grossed out and she's like, all right, I'm out of here. Let me hit the streets. And as she's walking down, she runs into somebody who offers her a joint, just in a random house. So she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Goes in, starts smoking with these people, and she calls these people, she says, these people were weaned into peace and free love straight from their parents' Wonder Bread and cheese doodles. So they were disgustingly enthusiastic. So she's talking about like what you think of with like the hippie free love movement.
Yeah.
Of like, but it's just like not
too much.
Yeah, it's like the shallow kind of more image based side
hey,
of that. Hey
man, peace.
Exactly. And they try to convince her to join them in their trip in their van down the coast. But she just gets a bad feeling. It's the other thing. She's very intuitive. That's something you learn, is that saves her life, is her
I bet
fierce intuition.
The Pisces placements. Yeah.
Anyway, later on, she learns that was Charles
Oh
Manson.
my God. No
Charles
way.
Manson crew. Yeah.
Wow.
Trying to convince her, and because they were like, well, just wait, like Charlie's in the store, he's getting us some apples to eat. He'll be right back.
Oh
like,
my God.
You should meet him. He's way far out. So she dips from there. She dips from there, and she comes out to... she goes back home, and there's an LSD capping party happening, which is...
what?
An LSD capping party.
What's that?
Which is a party that an LSD dealer will hold to basically get free labor. People will like cap all of these like LSD tabs or I don't know how this works. I don't know. And they do it for free because while they're like... They get organizing it, they get high.
Oh, yeah.
And then people just switch out when they get too high. So she does that for a little bit, and then she gets really high on LSD. So now we're like at 10 a.m. and she's like, she's had this
This is amazing.
Oh, we're just getting started. This is
She's my favorite too now.
We're just getting started.
Wow.
So she gets too high. She decides she wants a place to rest and to be alone. So she goes into a church across the street to be alone. And she decides she wants to sit in a confessional booth because she's never really done that before. And it just, for whatever reason, on LSD seems really inviting. So she goes in and sits there. And then a random man that she didn't see comes in and tries to have sex with her, tries to like hook up with her.
She can't even get any peace. Can't women just...
Right.
A woman can't even get any peace in a confession booth in a Catholic church?
This is Hate Street.
I know.
In San Francisco, 1967. So he's trying to like have sex with her, asking her if he can whatever to her. And she responds, this is all from this book. She responds, "No, my son, but you're forgiven. Go now in peace." Does the whatever. She ends up escaping, running out of the church. And as she leaves the church, she sees a bus with the Grateful Dead, who's headed to play at a prison. So she hops on board.
What? She just gets on the bus with them?
Yeah, there's like other parts of this that I'm leaving out too, of like girls talking about how excited they were because the night before they had slept with Jimi Hendrix, and she's like, I don't know what the fuss was about, like slept with him last week.
Oh my gosh.
And these are real stories. Like there are many interviews of people talking about her, and they're like, you're gonna think these stories are made up, but they're was real. Her life.
Yeah. Wow.
This was an exceptionally crazy day. But
it's just funny you say the word crazy, and I just look at her chart and
crazy.
I'm like, it looks crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
So she goes to this Grateful Dead show at the prison, gets home from that, and snorts some heroin for a quick rest, just to chill out. And as she's there, an old friend stops by named Patrick, and Patrick convinces her that she should join him to meet up with his new guru, who is this famous demonologist and devil worshiper. And she's like, okay, interesting. Haven't seen this guy in a while, but it sounds kind of fun. Sure. On the way, they have to stop at his sister's place to pick up something. I don't remember what it was.
Wait, is the devil worshiper the Satan guy? Is that someone that like is well known?
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley?
No, not him.
What's his name?
It's in here. It is LaVey.
Yeah, Anton LaVey.
Anton
Oh,
LaVey.
Anton LaVey. I've never heard that name
The Church
before.
of Satan for years. He has a really famous house in Alamo Square.
Oh, really?
Alamo Square, there's like a really gothic.
Oh,
is it black?
that's like where I live.
That's
Actually,
Anton LaVey's house.
whoa.
Maybe that's who I was
Wait, is he
thinking of, and
still
I just had the
alive?
wrong name.
I don't think he is. He doesn't
That's
live
crazy.
anymore.
Wild.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think that's who I was thinking of, but I said the wrong name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Us-
he died in 1997, but he was like the head of the Church of Satan.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is
Okay.
another person that she meets.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh my God,
This
that's
guy
so
is like my new
crazy.
guru, Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey.
And so as on the way to meet him, they have to stop at his sister's place to grab something that they needed. And his sister is having an authentic peyote ceremony.
Oh my
with
God. So many drugs everywhere.
some Native
Sounds so
Americans, some
fun.
indigenous people, and they offer some peyote buttons, so she takes some of those too. So at this point, we've had weed,
Yeah.
LSD,
Yeah.
heroin, now peyote.
Wow.
And then they go to meet this LaVey. So they're across the Golden Gate Bridge at this point, and they have her like sit in this little like circle that they're preparing, and Patrick doesn't really realize what's going on either at this point. He's kind of freaked out, and she's just like, what is going on? And LaVey starts the ceremony, and she starts hearing crazy things and gets a really terrible feeling and starts hearing like hooves and something running toward her, and she's like, wait, am I about to be a human sacrifice or something for this? So she starts sprinting, jumps into Patrick's car, takes it, leaves him, because she's like, absolutely not, I am not staying here.
Wow.
Leaves that.
Wow.
Gets back home, tells the story to her roommates. They all freak out for a second, and then they calm down, and they decide to take his car to Berkeley to watch Jim Morrison play.
I also think it's funny that she went straight from a church to a satanic ritual.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And on the way to Jim Morrison, on the way to Berkeley, they decide to take some more LSD on the way.
Oh my God.
She comes back home, and when she gets back home, her roommates are doing some meth and coke and talking about Eastern philosophy, Mu, Atlantis, and the apocalypse as the sun is rising.
I have to stop you just for 1 second because I have to go back to Neptune in the 10th house.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally her job to do drugs at this point.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable, as we'll get clearly.
Yeah.
That was an extraordinarily eventful day for her, but it's so entertaining to read. And it just, like, the way that she writes about all these crazy things in such a matter-of-fact way.
Yeah. I love that.
She just strings together these stories so effortlessly, and it's just so entertaining. And, yeah, that intuition, that gut of, like, wait, this isn't right. I need to go.
Yeah. Did we ever find out what happened to Patrick, or?
No, she doesn't say anything about him. So, in early 1969, her friends commit her to a psychiatric hospital in San Francisco, probably from
All the drugs?
all the drugs.
Yeah.
And after a couple weeks, she is transferred back to Maryland because they want her to be near family. It's like better for people going through rehabilitation. So she ends up getting transferred back to a hospital that's like right behind her parents' home.
Oh, cool.
After a couple weeks there, she's out of the hospital and she's working in a department store, saving some money. And she sees a poster for a movie premiere of John Waters. Familiar with the work of John Waters at all?
After we talked about her.
Right.
Yeah.
His big old film
Hairspray,
that most
right?
people know is Hairspray, but his legacy is for his like cult following, insane movies from the 60s and 70s. So his movie that's premiering in 1969 is Mondo Trasho. And they instantly click. So I want to show the transit chart for his movie premiere and Cookie. And I should have done a synastry chart with Cookie and John because that would have been so interesting, but I didn't think about it.
Let me see. Oh, wow. Yeah. Uranus, Jupiter, and the South Node all transiting over her Neptune in the 10th house. And then, let's see, what else? Mercury, Sun in the 3rd house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just like her North Node is in Aries, and she has Venus and Saturn going over her North Node, so it is like these like fated encounters and sort of like a commitment entering her life, like this responsibility. Also in the 4th house, she's back home. She's in Baltimore.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that's where she meets him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So she just had this whole big journey in San Francisco, and she's back home, and she doesn't really want to be.
Okay.
It feels very like intentional, like you're home because of this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because Chiron's there, she's healing, and has more structure, and she's about to be artistic and creative. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Slightly more structure.
Yeah.
just like maybe
just a
hair.
More.
Maybe a hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, also.
And then the moon is also transiting over her Mercury.
Yeah.
And and then Mars over Chiron in the 12th house.
Yeah, and I think just in her 10th house, obviously Jupiter and Uranus are conjunct.
Yeah.
In her 10th house, and
they're retrograde too.
Meeting people, and it's something about Capricorn risings that I always say I'm so jealous of Capricorn risings sometimes, because with Libra in the 10th house, they are the best, like, social butterflies. They are the best, just like charmers, networkers. They just have this natural charm and charisma that people just like them.
Yeah.
And it's a big gift. Anyway, so she meets John Waters, and he loves her. She loves him. They're both this like countercultural. They are freaks, and that's their whole thing. And that's John's whole thing, is he wants to celebrate the freaks of nature. He always loves the villains in society. He hated political correctness. He hated liberals as much as he hated anything else, because he hated anything that was being anything that was being censored. And so he's controversial, for sure.
I bet.
But he is like the epitome of the countercultural movement. And similar to Maya, I mean, quite different, but similar to Maya in the sense of being anti-Hollywood, wanting to just, everything in his films were
like exaggerated, right?
Exaggerated and not what you would expect from Hollywood. The way the people that he would star as like the most beautiful girl in the world is Divine, who is this drag queen, which also super impactful, influential. Divine was one of the first, if not the first, drag queen in cinema, and one of the first to be super famous. And Divine is casted in one of his movies as the most beautiful girl in the world. And there's an article I was reading that was like, it doesn't make sense, because you see Divine, you wouldn't think it's not Hollywood most beautiful girl in the world. But by the end of the movie, you're like, there is no Hollywood actress that is more beautiful than Divine.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, but I will say, if you're going to watch his films, trigger warning.
Why?
There's some really shocking, uncomfortable.
Like too shocking to say?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Things that would not go now. But that was his whole thing.
Yeah.
He wanted it to be as shocking as possible. I think to like break down like the barriers. Like people are saying Hollywood is so sleazy and Hollywood is so this, but it was actually so mild and so timid. And so he was like, oh, you want sleaze? So he's nicknamed the Pope of Trash.
Oh my
is his nickname.
He's kind of like high camp, too.
Yeah, high camp, as Sierra says.
Is that like campy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Campy, like he's just a character. He is a wild human being.
Yeah.
And so obviously they fall in love. Not actually,
right?
But they are, they get along super well. He immediately puts her in his film Multiple Maniacs, and she stars in his next 5 films and becomes one of his legendary Dreamlanders, which is his group of people, and specifically, I think, women that he cast in a lot of his in his films. And his films are considered to be the backbone of queer cinema.
Oh, really?
In the 60s and the 70s, and just kind of that countercultural lens, and just really like celebrating queerness. The freaks and the outcasts of society is what he was really trying to show. And in a way, he like took all these stereotypes and took all these fears and just like made them real. Put them in an actual film to celebrate like the absurdity of it. To push down boundaries, and also just because he enjoyed it, because he was just strange like that.
I wonder, I'll have to check out his chart at some point in time.
I know,
because,
I should have done that.
Oh, no, it's okay. But you were just like talking about like, pushing boundaries. And it just like looking at her chart, and, Neptune again is like, no boundaries, and like water.
Yeah, there's stories of him. He had always been a performer, and he was telling stories in an interview of doing puppet shows when he was a kid. And he used to get hired for the neighborhood birthday parties to do puppet shows until he started bringing blood into the puppet shows. And the stories got strange, and nobody wanted to hire him anymore.
That's so funny.
He was a little kid. But there's this quote that Waters' films bring to the fore many social assumptions we've unwittingly internalized, and remind us that despite talk of the preponderance of sex and violence in the media, most films are relatively benign. So that's the significance of like that scene that she's a huge part of, and that's really where she gets known from, is from his movies, especially in his film Pink Flamingos. She has a pretty big part, and you can read about that in here, but I don't really want to talk about why she's famous for that, but it's kind of crazy. She eventually moves to Provincetown, also in 1969. Moves to Provincetown, Massachusetts. Continues working as an actress. She gets bitten by the actress bug and just wants to be an actress. She's always a writer. That's something that stays with her. She has a baby in 1971, and she gets sober.
I'm sorry, can we go back just so Massachusetts to be an actress?
Yeah, well, I'm not really sure what the pull is to Massachusetts, actually. I just know it was a really important place to her, and a lot of her really important things. I think she actually...
Provincetown, P-Town is a queer community.
Oh, okay.
It's a very famous, it's like almost like the Palm Springs of...
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of like drag shows.
Okay. Right.
Queer culture.
Okay. Oh, okay.
My queer card is revoked. Anyway. So obviously she moves to Provincetown because it's the queer...
Okay, I had no idea, yeah.
It's the queer capital of the East Coast. And yes, she has a baby there in 1971. Doesn't really say much about the father. I don't know if he's relevant at all. But she does get sober for the first time while she's pregnant. She really cares about this child. And she writes about that in here as well. There's a whole section on...
So she went from rehab to hanging out with... I'm sorry, what was
the Dreamlanders, John Waters and crew.
Yeah, John Waters. And then, so she started doing like drugs.
Yeah, and
it's
unclear if the hospital was rehab.
Oh, okay.
She writes it as a psychiatric hospital.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming drug related.
You know what? I'm so sorry. I assumed that it was like a rehab facility, but it's a it might have been like just a psychiatric ward in a hospital, maybe.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was drug induced or drug related in some way. I don't think she really got sober there, but she does get sober in 1971.
Okay.
When she's pregnant, it's a really rough time for her, but she also learns a lot. Another interesting fact about her is she just like intuitively knows so much about like the body and like medicine, like natural medicines and stuff, which is like herbs and things. And so she's just like people go to her for like health advice. And later on, she's going to actually write a health column in the East Village Eye called Ask Dr. Mueller. And it's like a wildly popular health column.
Wow.
She's not a doctor, but
interesting.
she gives actual health advice. So anyway, she gets sober. And it's around this time in Provincetown that she meets Sharon Nesp, affectionately known as Shaggy, who becomes her lifelong partner, co-parents her son. Her son.
Yeah.
And they have a long-term partnership, and even when they split up romantically, they remain friends until Cookie's death. And Shaggy's also in a lot of these films. And Shaggy, I have to credit with almost as much inspiration for the podcast as Cookie, because the event was Sharon's memorial service that was open to friends, family, and fans.
Oh, wow.
And we went, and we didn't want to talk to anyone. We wanted to respect, and we just wanted to hear the story. We were there for Cookie. I was open. I wanted to honor Sharon too, but I didn't know anything about her. It was just when we were researching who we would want to talk to for the film. Obviously, Shaggy was like a big one, and she had passed away a month before when we were researching. But the funeral service, the memorial service, was the day after, the next day, when we were researching. So we were researching in October of 2023. She passed in September of 2023. But when we were researching, we found a memorial service that was happening in October the next day.
Oh, that's right.
And so that's when I was like, wait, I have to go to this.
Yeah.
And it was in that memorial service. John Waters was there and spoke at it.
Crazy.
Nan Goldin, who I'm about to talk, who's an iconic New York City photographer, was there and spoke. So many people were there, and we didn't feel like it was correct to like introduce ourselves or say anything at all, but just absorbing their stories and hearing about Shaggy, I just absolutely fell in love with her. And I have the program, so I'll show you. But such an incredible woman as well. And so hilarious. And all these people, it was a full memorial service, but there were not fans there. Everybody there was like, they knew each other. It was like, it said open to friends, family, fans. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be packed with a cult following. Yeah. Because these people are insane. Like, they're so wonderful. Yeah. And it was like any old person's funeral who was loved throughout their life. It was just in a church that was full. And everybody was just saying hi like they were old friends. And I was like, how do people not know who these people are? Yeah. Anyway, little tangent there with Shaggy, but love her as well.
It's a good story.
She meets Nan Goldin in Provincetown, and she quickly becomes a muse of Nan's. So Nan has done several works with Cookie, shooting her. And she becomes a muse for Shaggy, too. She becomes a muse for John Waters. And this is like a big theme in her life, too, is she's kind of just like a muse for so many people. And she's obviously an artist just in the way that she lives as well. But I think there's something about being a muse that is like met with it's not as celebrated as being an artist. It's almost like being a muse is like, there's something about it that feels, maybe this is just my own association, but there's something about being a muse that feels like, oh, you're just a muse. You're not an artist. I don't know. Do you get that?
No. Okay. I think that's, I think, I would
this is my
die
own, like,
to be
internal programming. Internal program. But like in society, is it not viewed as like, oh, I guess like, okay, well.
No. I
guess like
mean,
Marilyn
not that when I think of a muse, I just think of like someone so captivating that they inspire art.
Yeah, right.
Like Evie Sedgwick and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my own internal programming coming out on air.
It's okay. I'm sure it happens to me too.
Well, what I was going to say is, even with that association, I think that being a muse is extremely important, because without the muse, there is no art. And she was such a powerful muse for so many really influential people. And she also is one of the most incredible writers that I've ever read personally. It just speaks to me in a really specific way. She's in Provincetown from 1969 to 1976, and then she moves to New York City. So in New York City, she's a single mom. She gets by go-go dancing and then selling coke and acting, and eventually gets hired by the East Village Eye to write her Ask Dr. Mueller column,
okay.
and also as an art critic for Details magazine. So she starts working as a journalist. She's got a respectable adult job. There's another story from New York City. She becomes kind of like an it girl of the underground scene in New York City. She's back into drugs at this point. And she's just kind of everywhere. And she's kind of focused on being famous, but she's just at the whims again. But now she's also a mother. So her sights are a little bit more focused on how to how to take care of my child and still embody the only way that she knows how to live.
How old is her child at this point?
Well, in 1979, he would be 8 years old.
Oh, okay.
He was born in 1971. Okay. That's the other person he was at.
Oh, really?
At Sharon's memorial service.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was wild to be there and just to be in the presence of everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a story from a friend's birthday party in 1979 where her friend, whose birthday party it is, overdoses on heroin in the middle of his birthday party, and they all find Cookie because she's just known for being
a healer
and good at this stuff. And she goes into the bathroom and saves his life, injects salt water, saline into his veins, does all the things. He's fully dead, doesn't have a pulse. She revives him.
Wow.
And is sweating and doing all of this work, and he gets up and is not even phased by it, immediately goes out, and she sees him with another bag again.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna say that.
But I think that story is important because it just shows how, she's insane, but how much she cares for people. And she's really just sweating on the floor of the bathroom to save this dude's life, who's just not even thinking of that, probably wouldn't care at the end of the day. So it's also interesting to note the drug scene in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In one of her Dr. Mueller column responses, somebody asks about cocaine, and she says, though cocaine is proven to not be addictive, I believe that it is, or whatever. She says something about cocaine, but just how doctors have said that it's not addictive. Yeah. And it's crazy to think of that because now we know that it's one of the most addictive drugs. Yeah. But just the level at which these substances were being abused, I don't think we really understand. Yeah. Unless you lived through it and you were in it. It was so normal, and it wasn't just a little bit. It was all constant. Day, every day. Yeah. So much. She gets sober again. I'm not really sure when. I just know by the end of her life she was sober again. In 1986, she marries Vittorio Scarpati, who is an artist in New York City. He dies of AIDS in September of 1989. She gets AIDS and dies in November of 1989. So she is 40 years old, right before her.
Too young.
40 years old, is that right? Yeah, 40 years old. And John Waters says she was a writer, a mother, an outlaw, an actress, a fashion designer, a go-go dancer, a witch doctor, an art hag, and above all else, a goddess. Boy, do I miss that girl. And I just wanted to read her last letter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So she has the last letter that she wrote in this book, and it is one of the most powerful things that I've read. It shed light on the AIDS epidemic in a way that I didn't fully comprehend before. Because that was the time, that was the peak of it, and it was these people who were being taken. These people that we don't hear these stories that are to this level dramatic and countercultural and pushing these boundaries just by existing. So I'll skip around a little bit because it's long. But last letter, 1989. It's like wartime now, my aunt told me a few weeks ago. She lived in France during World War II. Young people are losing friends and relatives just as if it were bullets taking them away. She's right. It's a war zone, but it's a different battlefield. It's not bullets that catch these soldiers, and there's no bombs and no gunfire. These are people dying in a whisper. In 1982, my best friend died of AIDS. Since then, there have been so many more friends I've lost. We all have. Through all of this, I have come to realize that the most painful tragedy concerning AIDS death has to do with something much larger than the loss of human life itself. There's a deepening horror more grand than the world is yet aware. To see it, we have to watch closely who is being stolen from us. Perhaps there is no hope left for the whole of humankind, not because of the nature of the epidemic, but because of the nature of those it strikes. Each friend I've lost was an extraordinary person, not just to me, but to the hundreds of people who knew their work and their fight. These were the kind of people who lifted the quality of all our lives. Their war was against ignorance, the bankruptcy of beauty, and the truancy of culture. They were people who hated and scorned pettiness, intolerance, bigotry, mediocrity, ugliness, and spiritual myopia. The blindness that makes life hollow and insipid was unacceptable. They tried to make us see. All of these friends were connected to the arts. Time and history have proven that the sensitive souls among us have always been more vulnerable, which parallels what she said about her brother being taken so soon. Yeah. And then she writes about her friend who wrote her a letter right before he died of AIDS. And his letter says, "Dear Cookie, yesterday when I talked to you on the phone, I didn't know what to say. You're right. All of us high riskers have been put through an incredible ordeal. This is McCarthyism, a witch hunt, and a punishment for being free thinkers, freedom fighters, and for being different. I think if you told kids that measles was caused by excessive masturbation and were made to wear t-shirts to school that said contaminated so that no one would sit near them or play with them, and then put them in a hospital ward with other measles patients to have swollen glands ripped out, spots cut off, radiation bombardment, and tons of poison to kill the measles, all while their parents telling them it serves them right, masturbation is a sin, they're going to burn in hell, no allowance, no supper for a week, and the doctors telling them that it's the most fatal disease of the century, I think you could produce a large number of measles death. Instead, the child is kept at home, given ginger ale, Jell-O, and chicken soup, and reassured by a loving mother, whom they trust absolutely, that it's nothing serious and it will go away in a few days. And it does. The problem is that we are alone in the cruelest of cruel societies with no one we love and trust absolutely. All we really need is bread, water, love, and work that we enjoy and are good at, and an undying faith in and love of ourselves, our freedom, and our dignity. All that stuff is practically free, so how come it's so hard to get? And how come all these assholes and professionals, friends and foes, families, and complete strangers are always trying to convince us to follow their dumb rules, give up work in order to be a client of theirs, give up our freedom and dignity to increase their power and control?
A woman to that.
Yeah. So that's where I'll
I like
end
that letter.
with that. Isn't that powerful?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really relevant today.
Totally agree.
So with that, Cookie's multidimensionality, free-spirited eccentricity, and countercultural heart, bursting with love and creativity, reverberates across art and culture today. As both a muse and an artist, she embodies the archetype of the witch by letting her intuition and passion lead the way regardless of any external expectations. She was a part of a wave that challenged tradition, pushed the boundaries of society, and expanded our capacity for creativity, love, and acceptance. I owe her influence on my own life to the creation of this podcast, and will forever be grateful for the impact of her words on my heart. Her story represents one of millions that have been lost or perhaps intentionally hidden, that not only deserve to be heard, but now more than ever need to be. This is why I am so honored to welcome Cookie Mueller into our coven.
Finally.
And it feels so good to have her here.
Yeah, wow. I think that everybody will, I think that it would be kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say boring without her.
Well, she brings a different energy.
Yeah.
She's
totally.
she's not like a life dedicated to others in the way that so many of ours are.
Yeah. She would be needed because people would need some kind of comic relief from all the seriousness.
And just everything about her is just rebellion, but like not even trying to be rebellious. Yeah. That's the thing. It's just all the things she loves are things that are like not allowed. There's like interviews where people are like, she would go to the grocery store in like the thickest black eyeliner thinking that she was just wearing normal clothes. Like her hair's all teased up and she has like high heels, and like they're like, she genuinely thought that this was normal. Like she was so in her own little dimension.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, love her so much.
Yeah.
And I think that the world needs a little more of Cookie. Maybe not all the way.
Yeah.
You can chill a little, but maybe a little more.
Well, I think that she's a perfect addition to the...
Round it out.
Yeah, 100%.
She's also kind of in the same... I realize most of my people have been in the same era this time. I didn't even mean to do that.
Oh, really?
I also mostly picked writers. Which is interesting.
Yeah. I tried to mix it up a little bit, but there are a lot of people to choose from. It can get overwhelming too. Just there's so many people who have been sidelined and not spoken about, and
the list goes on forever.
Yeah.
Millions, truly.
Yeah.
It was not an exaggeration.
For real. Yeah.
I think that Cookie would like Maya. Yeah, and I think that she would, I don't really know what she would be doing in the Coven.
Yeah, I know.
some drugs
which fits.
Somewhere.
Yeah. That's perfect, though. Yeah. You don't have to. Yeah. She'll do whatever she wants. She'll do whatever she wants. Yeah.
Every time. She might not show up sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
That was when I flew to New York last minute. It was like that feeling was, okay, I'm wanting to tell Cookie's story. What would Cookie do?
Yeah.
WWCD. What would Cookie do? And I was like, okay, in this situation, yeah, absolutely. She would just find a way to get to New York. She hitchhiked everywhere. That was her way of getting around. But
oh my gosh. Wow.
Anyway.
Very cool. Thanks for telling your story.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for 9 whole episodes of Season 2. This has been magical and wonderful, and I'm excited to be back.
Yes, me too. Thank you. Thank you for, like I said, thank you so much for including me. I have had a blast, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
You've been a wonderful co-host.
Thank you.
Sierra. Absolutely essential.
Oh my God. Yeah.
To this. I will say we couldn't have done it without you, and you will say, yes, you can. But we couldn't have done it without you. Not like this. And Josh and Chris and everybody. It's just so perfect. I think that's all. Bye.